Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to All Things Ayahuasca, where we explore plant medicine in depth with Michael Gueron. Michael has had over a decade of experience working with the master plants. And on this episode, we're asking the question, should ayahuasca stay in the Amazon? Good morning, Michael.
How you going? Hi, family out there in the world. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, watch documentaries or hear about ayahuasca, and it's a trek to the Amazon, and that's where it lives, and that's where it comes from, and that's the authentic place. And there's a lot of like connotations around that, images that we've seen. And then, but it is infiltrating the West, and it is now accessible, quite accessible, all over the world, I believe, for weekend retreats and different and dietas and different things. And I think people are really curious, like, is it better to go to the source, to the Amazon, where it's like the authentic thing? We love authenticity, like the real deal. Is it the real deal there and not the real deal here? What are the differences? What are the similarities?
Yeah, very, very.
What do you reckon?
I think it's important for us, generally humans, what we do, we put judgment on things fairly quick. And each one of the sides has benefits and, pros and cons. And I think it will be good for us to scan and see what's the benefit, the pros and cons of each side. Obviously, uh, not saying one is better and one is less good or one is better. Um, so we can start obviously with the Amazon, the jungle, the traditional work. So first and foremost, I think it's very, very important for us to honor the old traditions and the custodians of these medicines. First and foremost, before we do anything, the custodians, the elders, the old shamans, the old healers that held these traditions for thousands of years uh, with most sacred awareness and with conscious relation to the plants and the healing capacities of what they have to offer us. So we'll start with that. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your teachings that we are learning from them, from the old traditions, and um, they hold uh, everything that we learned from them. We learned from the plants. We learned from how their ceremonies are running, how they creating the magic, creating the Icaros, their songs, their ability to control the medicine, to help to cleanse the body, to help to create these magical spaces that are extremely powerful. We have the old, they're talking about the Morayas, the old healers in the jungle that were supreme healers. They were supreme beings. They were, from what I know at the moment, there is no. Uh, Maybe there is one in the jungle, but we don't have any. There's no a master healer like that is known to the people in the jungle. I mean, from what we know in the West, at least. And those healers were so powerful and so amazing that they could do things that we would call miracles in terms of shape shifting. Their magical powers were way beyond our imaginations, really. And so that's for starters. And so when we looking at the, the general concept of going to the jungle,
What
yeah,
did you call them? Moriahs?
Morayas, yeah.
What was that word
Moraya,
that you used?
Moraya, that's actually in Shipibo. We can call them master healers. We have the maestros, and then we have the next level up. And it's not only in the jungle. You used to have them in the mountains as well, and spread throughout the whole South American continent. The master healers that had powers that are not standard, we'll put it that way. And so, in terms of
Mhm.
going to the jungle, yeah, I'm up for that, definitely. There's a lot of amazing benefits and things that is happening there. It's amazing to immerse yourself in the energy of the jungle. It's a whole ecosystem of spirits and mythos and ethos of connection to the land, to the nature spirits, to the trees, to the plants that you can see only there, really. And because it's a specific energy of the land and the
Mm.
plants and what they have to offer. So that's something that you will never experience anywhere else. That's the home of the medicine. That's where she's coming from. And through that, we can tap into those old traditions. We can really see, the different spirits of the trees, the different spirits of the land. They have the energies of the different healers. They have the sirens. They have the ayarunas. They have the energies of the rocks, the energies of the waters, all the different spirits that exist within that framework, and they have a lot to offer to anyone. It does, we separate in the West and not the West, but it's for everyone. And this is one of the most amazing things that, for starters, is
Yeah.
why we should go to the Amazon. Um, so that's one thing. And as well, we're talking about the healers, the shamans that they have an immense amount of knowledge and wisdom, and the deepest relationship that humans can have to plants, really, from my perspective at least. I assume there's some other places too, but when we talk about the work of ayahuasca, they do it the best. And I
Mhm.
refer especially to the communities in Peru, in Colombia, and the traditions in Brazil as well. And so, um, yeah, so the next things we can have a look at it is what is not that great, maybe.
I've heard that there are also lineages of shamans, so that goes. People talk about maybe name a shaman, and they talk about his lineage. So that whole lineage through families, and the real like the length
Yeah,
of time of that knowing goes back, and people really recognize, oh, that's that whole lineage that goes back. I don't know how long those
that's
lineages
right.
go back.
That's right. So there is fair bit of the communities and different tribes, and each one of them. I mean, many of them have similar kind of lineage that go back to certain directions. Some of them are related to the Incas. Some of them are, the Shipibo. They have their own lineage, and they have their own communities as well. Um, and each one of those lineages have their own wisdom and teachings and way of healing and transmute the essence of the medicine in its magical powers. So it's a very powerful thing as well, and each one of them has their own way of doing things. So some of them can be really
Mm.
strict. They can be, very stiff on very specific way, and you should do the work only
What
with
kind of
them.
ways?
It's almost, I'd say, it like quite rigid. Some of them can be quite rigid in terms of the way they do things, and They would prefer you to do the work only with them because the spiritual technology that they do is very specific and it wouldn't match properly with other type of work.
Mm-hmm.
So it will create a contradiction, energetically speaking. If you do a diet with specific people, that specific lineage, creating a specific template in your energetic field that won't fit other type of work.
Mm-hmm.
And then that means that if you work somewhere else later on, that can create conflict within the energies of the plants inside of you. Uh, and then that one's going to be very healthy thing for you because it's going to create contradiction. It can cause like what, um, you know, you could drop into quite a negative state, and you won't be able to live your life properly. And um, it's not going
Yeah.
to be healthy for you. It can be quite dangerous at times.
So we've talked about that continuity of the medicine kind of following, like each journey continues from the next, and there's this sense that grandmother, grandfather is holding that continuity, understanding that, and taking you in a direction. So I'm wondering if that's what gets disturbed when they're working in different ways, of like that becomes discontinuous, or you're crossing.
It's you crossing. That's right. So it's exactly the right word. You crossing. There is what you call a
Right.
crossing specific. Oftentimes they call it crossing the dieta. You could do some different work with different plants, or there is a
Yeah.
specific protocol. Yeah, there's a specific protocol that you might cross if you do it in a different way, and that will create a quite a negative impact on your relationship with the plants that you already dieted and the
Yeah.
medicine, and that will create a conflict inside yourself because they're intertwined with your system. And so
Mm.
it will be really hard for you to function. You can get into quite depressive state. Your relation, each plant has their own thing, so it's intertwined with your specific holographic state and where you're at with the specific healing that was given to you. And instead of healing, it's gonna
Yeah.
manifest the wounds again, and
Well, it's
then you're gonna,
discord, isn't it? It's going to
yeah,
create discord. Yeah.
that's right, yeah.
Do you think that applies in the West as well? Like when people might go, I'll go to festival and do that here, and I'll go there and I'll do that and I'll here's that, and there's a lot more piecemeal. I gather. I mean, I'm jumping into the West quickly, but I can
Yeah, that's
imagine
good.
that might be like really
Yeah,
discordant of that jumping around.
yeah, that's right. I mean, if we work, I think it's more so if you work specifically with one person that works in a specific way, and then we kind of like noticing what is the direction of spirit and the direction of the plants that you get, and then you may cross that and you dishonoring or do things in non-harmonious way to the plants, and
Yeah.
therefore you will cross those specific uh, energies, and then you will create a contradiction. You will create the same thing that you would do in the jungle. So it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
It's very subtle and not subtle at the same time. And because of the intensity of the forces that are entwined with this, the magical powers that in play, it can be quite dangerous later on if you do it like, you could do things pretty bad if you're mixing up drugs later on. You go into a
Yeah.
festival, you've done something, you mix something up, you've been exposed to harsh energies. We can talk about demonic stuff. You're getting harvested, and then you have attachment on you, and then 5 minutes later you can be suicidal. All your relationship in your life
Mm.
can break apart. You're destroying all your life, and you're going down the other way around. So you
And
will
you don't
ruin
know
everything.
why.
Yeah, you don't know why. You just went to a party, and
Mm.
and 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 that's it. So this is one of the things that people are not really putting all their they think it's just a casual thing. Oftentimes, they're just going to a ceremony, or they're doing couple ceremonies, and it's just that. But yeah, no good.
Well, we're very new, aren't we? We're so new in the West to this medicine, so that understanding, the depth of understanding and the building up of experience through lineages and through years to kind of understand what we're doing as participants. We don't have that. We don't have that history. We don't have that experience in us to be able to recognize these things.
Yeah, that's right. So obviously, we need to learn, in the West, what is the powers of this medicine, the power of the magical worlds, the spiritual worlds, and how powerful it is. I'm talking to my son yesterday, and I'm showing him the wind blowing in the trees, and I'm telling him, this is you see how the trees are moving. They're moving so far and wide and going crazy, and the wind is blowing them there, but you can't see the wind. But it's so powerful, isn't it? It can move the whole trees, it can break everything apart, but you can't see it. And he was like fully into it, how amazing it is. And the same, and that's the essence of spirit. We don't see it, but it's so powerful and so intertwined in our life if we choose to see.
So you have those some shamans really strict. You were saying some are really strict. There's different types of lineages and different types of shamans.
Yeah, so you have different. It's less shamans. It's more the lineage and the way they
Hmm.
run the rules. Their guidelines are very very specific to.
Like a school of, it's like a school, we
That's
would
right.
have here. Yeah.
It's exactly right. It's a mystery school. It's almost like you look at different religious organizations, and each religious organization they have that stream and that stream and that stream, and each one of them will have different guidelines. Some of them have rules. And they can be very very stiff and
Yes.
very hard, and yeah. So this is one thing that I think is also changing there as well, because oftentimes I think the ones that are a bit more flexible starting to see what's the difference and what is more needed, and there is a, a tendency that I see in the last couple good years that for those that the healers that are willing to hear the messages of the plants and what is required and have the ability to see what is needed in the world, they are managing to get more flexible with times, and um, allowing more things to come into place, because they're starting to see some of the old rules. They're just there because they don't know other things, because for example,
Yeah.
if you don't know something, that's not allowed. But if they're starting to get to know that other energy, the recognizing, yeah, it's okay. You don't have to. You can do whatever that means, but you don't have to be too rigid about it. So they're changing
Yeah.
as well, and it's a constant thing that happens, as well as we're seeing that the Westerners arrive into the jungle, into the Amazon, and there's a big movement that happening there, and
Yeah.
it's a collective shift. It's happening together. It's happening to all of us together. The medicine spirit is guiding us, and it's about us noticing that. I'm talking us, not only it's all the people who work with the medicines and humans, facilitators, all of us around, that able to see what is required at that moment in time for us at this, because it never happened before. What we're experiencing on the planet right now, it's something that never happened before. There is new energies that coming into the planet every day, and it's changing consciousness into levels that we haven't experienced before. So all of us are learning together how to navigate and sail on those spiritual winds, uh, and understanding and comprehending what is needed every time, and what is being allowed, and the rules that used to be very important long time ago now are kind of like fading away, because the landscape changed completely, and there is new energies coming in that allow you to do different things, and there's it's much easier to let go of a lot of dark and things that you might have a lot of resistance in the past, even if we can reflect 10 years ago, it would have been much harder to overcome certain things within yourself compared to now, because now it's much easier to let go because there is much more support, energetically speaking, to let go of
Mm.
things that are intertwined deeply within our psyche, and now it's like ready to go, just out of it, just going out. There's much more light that is available for us because
Yeah.
there's so much light. The dark cannot hold it anymore, so it just like it's just coming out.
Mm. That sort of corresponds to how non-taboo, like we're all doing therapy. 10 years ago, therapy was still kind of like people were embarrassed about it or didn't want to let people know they were in therapy. Whereas now, like culturally, we're all wanting to be more self-aware and engaged in those questions about how do I be heal and recover and understand myself and all those things. So, that's a pretty mundane kind of angle to bring in, but it's part of what I'm thinking of when you say that things are more able to move because that's reflected in so many ways.
Yeah, I would like to think so. I'll be honest. Sometimes I don't think. You have those who are still on that wavelength, but obviously the people we are
Yeah,
interacting with are more like that. But yeah, we can see a lot of that, in the
yeah,
mainstream, TVs and series, and the therapeutic aspects of
yeah,
the medicines and psychedelic therapies and MDMA therapies and mushroom therapies and microdosing. So it's definitely coming up to the
yeah.
surface to be more available and acceptable in society. So we're definitely experiencing this massive shift currently.
And people just sharing their own stories of their own struggles and healing. And there's this beautiful sweet show about the piano and people coming and playing the piano and talking about how the piano saved them, and
Mm,
and sharing those stories of how they got through a hard time through playing the piano, through music. And it's it's we want to hear that about each other. We want to see the truth. We want to understand the depths of each other, and that's so heartwarming.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
let's
it's
go back to the
amazing.
jungle.
Yeah,
Also, I'm thinking, like, for Americans, like the Amazon's not that far away, right? It's not too
that's
far.
right.
It's pretty close. So you can go on your little trek and it's just a little hop, skip, and a jump. Whereas, I think about going to the Amazon and it's like, whoa, how do I like even start approaching that idea?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, nowadays, just a couple flights from everywhere around the world, and you can get there. Really,
Yeah.
it's depend what's your perspective. Um,
But I think when there is an odyssey of I'm going on this massive journey and massive undertaking to go all the way over there, I'm going to take a big chunk of time out of my life, some kind of chunk of time out of my life, and go quite a long distance into the unknown. Hope, that I find a good shaman, not a dark shaman, or I don't know who I'm going to. I have to trust a lot of guidance or whatever gets me there, and then go into a very unusual environment and spend some time. It's not normally a weekend, right? Well, if you do, you might have a few couple of ceremonies or stay for quite a period of time and have a really big, longer experience. And then you have to come all the way back. That's a big thing to integrate. Like it's a big undertaking, and then
yeah,
it must be a big integration to come back to life and find your feet again.
yeah. I mean, obviously, if you do that, I mean, you kind of like going to be aware that you'll have to change a lot of things in your life, and so-called sacrifice a lot of your what you need to do, and it's going to be like a big thing, and you make it a big thing. It's not going to be, which is a good thing,
Hmm.
um, to bring that into your consciousness. And it's going to be a big journey. It's like it's a pilgrimage, It's a
Yes.
spiritual journey that I'm going into, self discovery, into my deep healing journey, and so I'll be able to overcome whatever going on in my life. And you'll have to do something about it. You'll have to put effort, and that's a good thing about it. Saying that, oftentimes it can be like a huge things, but we have a lot of solution in the West as well. And oftentimes our life is life, and um, you really want to do work, but you have responsibilities that you cannot just let go of, just like that. Whether it's kids and different type of jobs
Mm.
that will have to, you'll have to pay the mortgage, or all these things, and you have
Yeah.
only limited amount of time, and it's not for everyone to go to the jungle because it's intense. It's not as comfortable a lot of time. Now it's becoming more comfortable, obviously, but there's more like organized retreat centers, and it's going to be like very comfortable, but still it's not for everyone. It's not just
Yeah. No.
and then you have the ability to go to someone in the West, in your nearest city, or have the ability to do really deep work, even if you need to clear like a week or a longer weekend or something along these lines, and then you're able to slowly plow through your own healing journey, and slowly overcome what you need to overcome, and um, you know do the work
Yeah.
from around where you're at. In the West, one of the things that is important, that Westerners understand the Western psyche, because the psyche of
Mm.
a Westerner is completely different from the psyche of a tribesman in the jungle. Their worldview is completely different, and
Yeah.
us in the West, we comprehend things differently, we see things differently, and there is this is the bridge. We're having a kind of like people, that are bridges between worlds, and we're able to translate the energies of the medicine, and bring that translation, and intertwine different cultures and different traditions that where we coming from, and weave it into our lifestyles, and create new traditions, really,
Mm.
that is emerging. All the time there's new cultures that is a lineage that is emerging, that started from our ancestors, from where we are coming from. And you have to remember that most of our ancestors really did very similar work with different things,
Yeah.
right? So we had the mushrooms, we had the
Yes.
soma, we had the Syrian rue, we had the different wattles throughout there's plenty of psychedelic plants that used to be intertwined with our development and healing capacities for thousands and thousands of years. So really,
Yeah.
we are tapping into something that is very natural for us. It's intertwined with our genetic this way or another.
So I have a question because I know that you've hosted and invited and brought a couple of curanderos, maestros from Peru, the Shipibo tribe, to Australia. Do, what do they think about how we working with ayahuasca, San Pedro, Huachuma, these medicines? How do they feel about us and how we're working with these medicines here?
Well, I have personal communication with at least two or three healers. Not all of them from the Shipibo, but saying that,
Hmm.
obviously, the fact that they came over to travel overseas, they, personally speaking, they are open to those possibilities, and to the fact that we're doing this work in the West. So specifically, those healers, they're very open minded, they're very kind, they're very humble. Generally speaking, I see them as the really, really humble people
Mm.
that are really happy to share and to transmit their teachings to the people in the West, which is really incredible. They're just really happy to give it away. Just take it. So the more people
Yeah.
hold it as secret, the secrets are not there anymore. Like, what does it mean? They're happy to share the
Mm.
words, translating the Icaros. What's that mean? The different intricacies of the work. They're really happy to share that. So it is very beautiful and very
Mm.
amazing. They recognizing us for what we do as healers in the West as well, um, which was really heartwarming, and it's just really beautiful to see that all of us traveling through time and space together on this planet, and we willing to share and uh, really open our hearts, really fundamentally to to the medicine and to the healing. If it's a real true healer that wants to, is coming from his heart, and he wants to see the healing multiplying around the planet, and he wants to see, this is like a true healing, that you want to help and support, and keep supporting
Yeah.
this amazing movement that we see around the planet. And obviously it's a natural thing that we are working with there is alignment with people that are willing to come and do this work together in the West. It's very eye to eye. Like, there's no ego, there's no, the persona is just there. There's no,
Mm.
I'm there, you're, just like eye to eye, heart to heart, and
Yes.
just heart connection. And even if the language is a bit of a barrier, it's just like overcoming that and creating these amazing experiences. And for them, going outside of going all the way to a different country and seeing all the different animals, they're like
Massive.
fish out of water oftentimes. It's like so foreign and so different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just seeing the different energies of the land is so foreign because it's so different. In each continent it's so different. Australia
Yes.
on top of that is very, very different on top of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very amazing and beautiful.
Mm. I am so struck, w- we have such a the West is so hierarchical. The best leader, the best doctor, we go up, up, up to like revere the top
Authority, yeah.
specialist in his field. Yeah, and the authority of that, and they're kind of untouchable. I remember my daughter had to have surgery, orthopedic surgery, and the surgeon didn't make eye contact. I mean, he cared. He obviously cared, but there was no heart to heart, eye to eye. He had to stay removed, and I understood he had to do his job, and he couldn't be there for me when he had to like focus on this big surgery he had to do. But we don't see humility as a good thing. The higher the high up in your field people tend to have an arrogance, a loftiness, a better than kind of thing. And this medicine is so humbling. Like, the beauty of being humble, the more humble, the closer you are, the more receptive you are, the close. I mean, it's such a actually a very um Christian thing today. It's a very Christian notion of like humble. The more humble you are, the closer to God. And that encounter with those traditional healers who are so humble, then they don't have a personal agenda
Yeah,
that they're
yeah.
trying to
I mean,
push, right?
there is all the natural, give and take, and it's good for them financially as well, and all that. But that's not the main thing that
Yeah.
fundamentally that's the way we are, as people.
But what I'm saying is, it's healing. It's a healing
Hmm,
thing to encounter humility in leadership, to feel, to encounter humility in someone who has great power.
yeah,
Like, it's not what we
yeah, yeah,
experience in the West.
yeah.
It's medicine in and of
Yeah,
itself.
I mean, the more spiritually evolved you get, the more connected you are, the more you see the powers of the other side naturally. The closer you get to spirit, the closer you get to God. Saying that, you have the other side. There's
Mm,
always the other side, and there's I think it's getting better and better in time, but oftentimes we hear about the witchcraft and the people who are being lured to the dark side of the plants, and
mm,
they're doing all these other things that are more manipulative, and
mhm.
uh, who wants the power.
Who
And
want
it's
the
actually a big
power?
thing with Aya, because she could do that quite easily, and you can utilize that as a, and that's one of the things that we have to bring up to the surface, because if you're unable to process that within yourself, that craving for power, and the force, the feeling the force inside yourself, and feeling the ability to control, and that ego driven power really that comes inside of you irresponsibly too, right? So you're not being too responsible with that.
Yeah,
That's one of the things. You don't have the ability to respond to it properly, because you use it for your own gain, and you could manipulate a lot of the things. So we see a lot
it's
of issues
blinding.
there as well, with facilitations around the world, both here and both there. It's like issues that we see in both worlds, because
Hmm.
that's human nature. So there
Yeah.
in the jungle, it will be a bit more intense, and obviously, more like things can happen that are, you know, quite intense from magical perspectives and ability to manipulate people. And we have a lot of
Hmm.
abuse and stories of sexual abuse in the middle of ceremonies, and even if not in ceremonies, just manipulating people while they're in the space, and then later on, um, there's all these things that could be unconscious playing from people who runs the ceremonies, and they're unconscious of their own shadow taking the forefront in the ceremonial space. And then we could see, like, you know pretty nasty things can play out. And even if they had good intention at the beginning,
Hmm.
eventually it will collapse on itself, and things will happen. And it's stuff that I'm not too happy about, but it's quite prevalent, I'll be honest, a lot in the West. The unconscious entanglement and energetic cords and sexual energies and manipulation and ego
Hmm.
driven power, kind of like actions behind the scene that making people looking at it as a powerful thing. And eventually, it's kind of like collapsing on itself, and there's like a big cathartic event or something like that can happen if there's not enough attention on participants, or the ceremonies are too big, and there's lots of involved energies that coming in, and it's just a big kerfuffle of energies that um, are not really great. And we're trying to it's unsustainable, and it's important to bring
Unsustainable.
that notions
Mm.
of when it's too much, why you're doing what you're doing, because we don't have any framework at the moment. We don't have governing authority, because people need to be told off or something along these lines. But it's important to bring the information out there, to observe
Yeah.
within yourself, why do you do what you do. I'm coming from the right place. If something doesn't happen properly in ceremonies, are you are learning from it, or do you care about it? Do you mind about it, or you're just gonna keep going? For participants, they're doing one work, then they're jumping for another, then
Yeah.
they're jumping for another. They have the tendency to jump to a lot of places, and then the healing doesn't happen properly, and they're making the weekend retreat thing, and they just become a social event, and the spiritual bypassing happening again and again and again. And there's a lot of enabling of the enabling of the wound itself, instead of dealing with it. So there's all these real
Yeah.
life issues that we are facing in the West and in the jungle.
So, and I think nowadays in the Amazon, they're kind of, it sounds like there are more centers being set up, and maybe Westerners coming in to help set up like healing centers that can facilitate the Westerners' experience. And it sounds like, with my limited knowledge, that there is a little bit more of that. container of you're not just going off to the jungle and coming into a ceremony or whatever and then leaving and you're on your own, but that sort of container of including yoga and including that kind of integration and preparation and support around the ceremony that I think the West is
Yeah,
coming
that's
into
right.
influence, or the jungle, or making it more comfortable for the Western kind of
That's
psyche
right.
to
So
participate there.
I think one of the things that we're missing oftentimes is that in the traditional the communities and and all these guys in the jungle, they didn't had that intermediary. They didn't had a bridge. So uh, oftentimes we can see a couple of Westerners or one or two people that come together. They're able to communicate Spanish properly, to translate, and they're able to transmute the information of the medicine properly as well, and then they're accommodating to the needs of the West and what is more acceptable within the Western healing modalities nowadays, which is the yoga, the breath work, the integrations, and all these kind of things that we so really need, because we can't just do 1+1. So we need a couple more processes in between to help us to do that process.
Hmm.
And it works really well. I
Mm.
have, a really dear friend that is working greatly like that, and is doing amazing work. And um, yeah, it's working amazing. Yeah,
In
yeah.
the Amazon.
So yeah, very successful, and
Mm.
it's good for all of the above. The community is being supported. There is a natural flow. There is they learned as well, because
Hmm.
if the fucking up, sorry, if they if there is like a misdoing or something is not working
Yeah.
properly, everything is gonna, because of the social media, everyone will know. So they know that they want to have like really good service as well. Everyone are
Mm.
learning, so they learn that they need to provide even better service compared to other places and other centers, and they want to provide and promote. And if they don't have that extra person in there to help them, they know that the word will get out there very quick if they've done something wrong, and the other way around if they had really good results. So it's win-win, I think,
Hmm.
for everyone, really.
I have a friend who just went to Peru, I think, with her family, and she just posted a little video of where they were staying. She didn't go to do medicine work. She was just staying in the jungle. And she posted this little clip of this place they were staying, which was kind of what you see in I see in ayahuasca documentaries of like you're just in the jungle, right? Like there's no walls virtually. Maybe you got a net, a mozzie net, but the wall of sound of the jungle, like even in the little glimpse of her little video, I got this hit of the density of sounds in the jungle, the density of foliage and the density of sounds. And that was the first time when I was like, oh, how would it be to drink ayahuasca there with, you've got, because here we have the sounds of the singing and the icaros and the instruments, but to add that density of frogs and birds and crickets and like animals and like was just really striking. It must be weird to come to this arid desert like, Aussie bush for those
I guess
guys.
so. I mean, it just very. I mean, first of all, it's not that deserty along many other places, but there is still a lot of noise. There's a lot, yeah. Compared to
No, but
that, I
it's
think most
dry
of the world
compared to
is
that.
desert. And
Yeah.
I think they found it really unique because you have the different animals, and I mean, Australia is unique. Full stop. You have the crazy monkey
Yes.
birds, the kookaburras, and all these other things that are completely different. And yeah, it's true. The jungle is a whole thing for itself. I
Mm,
mean, the environment is so
yes.
overwhelmingly alive with so many creatures and density of creatures and spirits and plants and colors, and
and
it's just
colors.
intense all the time.
Yeah.
um, yeah, very amazing.
So next time I want to ask you about the difference between what is a shaman and what is a therapist. You know, we have a therapeutic kind of mind here, and there's the shaman, and what the difference is. So I want to explore that next time with you. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Please support us with liking, subscribing, sharing, giving us your comments. We love ideas about questions you'd want us to cover. And we look forward to seeing you next time, where we're talking about what's the difference between a shaman and a therapist.